Welcome to BNEWS Weekly Special Report. I'm Phil Gallagher. Our topic today is the Burlington Sculpture Park, and our guest is Jonathan Sachs of the Burlington Sculpture Park Committee. Jonathan is first going to give you a little update on the origins of the park, and then he'll give you a tour of the individual pieces and an explanation of them and the meaning behind them by the individual sculptures. Welcome, Jonathan.
So the idea to have a sculpture park in Burlington came out of the Master Plan Steering Committee. And there were a lot of discussions about issues, wide-ranging issues about the character and the future of the town. And one of the things that we realized is that all the other towns around, because of history, they have that very recognizable town center from 1890 with those two-story buildings and a lot of historical stuff going on. So the idea came up, gee, what if we were to put a sculpture park somewhere here in town center so that over time people would start to say, yeah, Burlington, we'd like to be known for more than just the town with the mall. So putting together the idea that wouldn't it be nice to have something in the center of town that people would remember and not wanting to be known as the mall, we realized that we already have a sculpture park here. What is a sculpture park? It's an art museum with no building, no utilities, no staff, just beautiful rolling land. It came to pass that Nordblom Company donated money for a sculpture over there, and then in the end, after some round and round, they gave us that money to the committee to do whatever we want and could. So a committee was formed as an official subcommittee of the planning board. When the committee came over here, it just felt like this was a protected little spot in the trees. It's between the police station and Grandview Farm, the kind of place where you'd want to come with your kids and feel safe and comfortable here. So this is where we decided to give this our first 2-year trial. Using the very generous grant from Nordblom, we partnered with the New England Sculptors Association, NESA. You can go to nesa.org and learn all about them. Wonderful organization. And they helped us shape a call for entries. And we put out on a national website a call for entries. And we got over 45 responses. We got wonderful, beautiful works. We chose a group of about 15 to 20 that we thought were pretty good candidates. But then from the school system, we have George Ratkovich on our committee, and he presented all of these sculptures to students from grade school through high school. These kids took it very seriously. They wrote little summaries of which ones they liked and why. And the committee looked very hard at their choices. And matter of fact, one of the kids' favorites was that green one that glows in the dark if you come up here at night. So that was our final group. We then took our final choice of, there are 5 here now, we're waiting for the number 6 one, which is coming from Ukraine, the big tall yellow cherries. It's going to be quite lovely when it gets here. We put them in place using Photoshop and presented them to the selectmen. And we said, we have an alternative idea, which is what if we put one of them across the street, the big dog, pointing like a pointer toward the park. And the selectmen liked that idea. So then, with tremendous cooperation from Frank Anderson and the folks at DPW, they put in these concrete bases, and we were discussing which way should the sculptures face, and Frank said, you know what? Let's make the bases round. That way you can point the sculptures any direction you want. And that's been perfect, because in every case, the sculptor has come here, we put the work down and rotated it and looked at it from a distance, and then we bolted them down in exactly the right direction. So that was kind of how this whole thing came to be. And really the next question is, now these works are here for a 2-year period. From the date of installation, each sculptor got a stipend that covered giving it to us for 2 years and driving it here in a truck, with the exception of the one from Ukraine. So then this gives us 2 years to figure out, are there some of these that the town loves enough that we want to find the money to purchase? Or do we want to do this again and have a new crop over time? Or do we want to add to it? So the future of the park is wide open. So this work is called Follow Your Heart, and it's by sculptor Mark Holey, W-H-O-L-E-Y. And if you go to the website, which is burlingtonsculpturepark.org, and you click on this work, you can see a video where Mark talks about his work and his approach to sculpture. Clearly, the idea behind this one is that you should follow your heart, that you should take a step forward, and you should take a risk sometimes. And also, it's a really fascinating video to hear him talk. One of the interesting things that Mark Holey talks about is that this base, he said, this is really part of the sculpture, not just a pedestal. He said, we all work from a base of things that we have and we can rely on, but from there you take a step forward. To listen to Mark talk about this, I have to say it's really quite inspiring. This one here is called Next Stop Shibuya, and it's by Philip Marshall. Again, if you go to the website, burlingtonsculpture.org, and you click on this sculpture, Philip tells a wonderful story about how this concept came to be and how he named it what he did, having to do with being on the subway in Japan, where he lived for a while, and being squeezed incredibly tight, and he was getting off at the next stop, which was Shibuya, and he couldn't wait because he was squeezed so tight that he could barely breathe. It's wonderful the way he tells it. And there's 2 parts, and they're both curved, kind of Japanese-looking shapes, like a little bit derived maybe from a Japanese temple. But they also represent 2 people squeezed together in the subway trying to retain their personal space. So it's graceful. Of course, you can do all kinds of interesting pictures looking through it, like this. And it's one of the more quiet pieces. It's made out of, he took each section is made out of a steel sheet, and he kind of welded them together at the side, and then of course they're painted. This is one of the more abstract pieces, but if you spend a little bit of time with it, I think you get pretty fond of it, especially if you listen to him tell the story about being crushed on the subway. Okay, this piece is called Truth Number 1 by sculptor Peter Deller. And in fact, this is one of the ones that the kids from the schools were very enthusiastic about. For one reason is it glows in the dark. Not real bright, it's a little subtle, but if you come here on a dark night, you'll see it looming up out of the dark. A gentleman just walked by, and he looked up and he said, this one, to him, is a baseball. Now, the sculptor wouldn't want you to climb on it or hang on it or really touch it, but you're welcome to come inside it. You can have 2 or 3 people, family members pose in here. The only thing is, when you leave, don't bang your head because it's made out of steel. This was originally made out of wood, but in needing it to be stronger and more permanent, he then had it fabricated out of steel. It was delivered here, and there's a video of the installation of that, which is fun to watch. And then he and his wife spent the whole afternoon priming the inside. They sanded it, they primed it twice, they put on 2 coats of glow-in-the-dark paint, and then they put a sealer on top. That's all in the video, and it makes it's quite a process. It really took him essentially, the 2 of them, from about I think 10 in the morning till 6 at night to get this thing all installed. It was a lot of fun. So it was originally wood, and then we asked him, how will it stand up? And so that's why he had it completely fabricated in real steel and then powder coated. The green is not paint, it's kind of a industrial powder coating, but then the lighter color inside is where he and his wife painted it. Go watch the video on the website, and I think you'll enjoy that. So right here on this spot, in the month of September, hopefully, we're going to get our sixth sculpture, the one called Global Warming. It's tall, 2 cherries, and in bright yellow. And we're working to get that shipped over from 2 brothers who are sculptors in Ukraine. Again, if you go to the website, you can see the 2 sculptors working in their studio together. And hopefully this will come through, because having a bright red one and a bright green one, the bright yellow one, would make a lovely addition to the group. One of the sculptors mentioned that wet concrete is a wonderful medium to write things and put things in, but we poured all 6 of these bases in one morning in less than an hour. The Frank Anderson and the folks from DPW did an amazing job. They built these round bases, and the truck came in here and filled them in, and it was done in less than 1 hour. So having people write things in the concrete was tough. So what we had done is went out and gathered some leaves and had them nice and moist in a box, plastic box, and imprinted them into 3 of the bases. And there are different kinds of leaves. All of them are local native trees and ferns. That's a little thing that you can look for. This work is called Endeavor by sculptor Chris Plaisted. And this is an abstract, but based on an actual ship that was used in exploration called the Endeavor, HMS Endeavor. The installation of this was particularly exciting. And again, there was an installation video on the website that you can watch. And then there's a little bit where Chris talks about his work. There's also a very nice video that he shot in his own studio, where he talks about his approach to sculpture. This has got, up here, we have shiny steel. Then we have these reinforcing rods and rusty steel at the bottom. Chris says that one of the great things to do with this one, I guess when the grass grows back, is lie down on the ground and look up at the sky through the sculpture, which is always a fun thing to do. Endeavor by Chris Plaisted. So this is The Great American Dog by Dale Rogers. And of course, you'll see these in and around New England. It is his signature piece. And now we have ours as well. And at this very moment, there's a Name the Dog contest going on. And pretty soon this guy will have a permanent name. Again, there's a video where we show him installing it, bringing the dog over from his truck, putting it in here, and then we bolted it into the cement base. In terms of understanding sculpture, more than any of the others, this one doesn't require any explanation. This is the Great American Dog. I asked him if the dog does tricks, and he said the dog does one trick very, very well, which is the dog can stay. You notice it's been here for some weeks now. It hasn't moved at all. Stays very well. In the video, Dale talks about his welding techniques. He uses a kind of welding with inert gas that produces a very nice edge. Maybe you shouldn't touch it, but if you did touch it, you're not going to get cut, because it produces a really lovely smooth edge. And of course, this is a kind of steel that's often used for sculpture. It rusts to a degree, and then it doesn't get any further. And of course, all of this rust coming down here looks like the fur of the dog. This again is a great piece to pose with. You can obviously come and look through the dog, front or back, and the little kids can come on the bottom, and you can pose with your dog and the big dog. By the way, this lovely logo was designed by 2 high school students from Burlington High School, and we are going to be selling t-shirts like this, and maybe coffee cups and a few other things from the website, www.burlingtonsculpturepark.org. And of course, you can also go check us out we have a Facebook page as well. And by the way, the Facebook page is a wonderful place where you can go and take family pictures here and upload them right to the Facebook page and share your enjoyment of the sculpture park with the rest of the town. So I think that's it as an overview. So we'll go back to Phil. Thanks very much.
That concludes today's program on the Burlington Sculpture Park. I want to thank our guest, Jonathan Sachs, and the Burlington Sculpture Park Committee. And we urge you to come up here and take a look at it and enjoy the pieces of work. Thank you.